in a location like this? Like, what are some of the considerations, risks, and then also upside?
Yeah, like for commercial, generally, we apply a higher vacancy and very area dependent, right? Like there's some areas where you look at their downtown core and you see like multiple vacant commercial storefronts, and then you have to look Detroit. Into like, like that's actually a serious consideration. Yes. Like how long will it take to find a quality tenant? This particular location, that it seems to be a lot of demand and not as much of an issue, but
like, so you don't really see the vacancies around nearby.
Yeah, it's a very desirable area.
This has killed deals in the past for me. Where I was selling and the buyer or the buyer's agent or the buyer's lawyer was not savvy enough to understand the flow through process. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And we're literally sitting there being like, nobody has to pay this. Like it's just going to, and we're good.
But I think that's coming back actually in maybe, the next 5 years. Depends on how long interest rates stay high. But anyways, shortcuts. That's a shortcut that I've used a ton of. And it just lets you evaluate so many deals. You just next. Okay, that's not going to work next. Okay, we might have one.
And it lets you sort of zoom out and you just look at kind of the pieces of the puzzle and you go, that something seems off here. So that it's indicative of probably a problem. If that's 18%, we need to investigate this. Something's off.
Yeah. Welcome back to REI Hot Seat. Very special episode. We're going to be talking about a deal that gets 7% cash on cash. And I've got like a full cast here, cast and crew. So we got Mark Luciano, David Hulshof, Jacob Campagnaro, and of course myself. And this is going to be fun. First time we've ever had 4 people.
Yeah. We're just all going to be talking over each other. No one's going to understand what the heck we're talking about. It's going to be good. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, we're growing.
Mark, welcome to the show for the first time.
Thank you. Great to be here.
All right. So the main reason we brought you in here to do it for the first time ever was a lot about this deal. So I know we want to keep some of the details off the record for now because I don't believe this is anyone's listing at the moment. This is just a deal we're aware of and it's in the pipeline.
Correct. Yeah. It's a deal that is available, but don't want to overshare at this point.
Yeah. We don't have permission to overshare yet.
And Mark's job is to sell us all on the deal.
Exactly.
Okay, so I want to jump into the numbers here a little bit. And by all means, guys, if you have stuff you want to add on, just add on. So I have here, this was something that you guys put together. We're in the Niagara region. 1.7 is their ask. We're kind of writing in a potential offer price of 1.6, but we don't know for sure
nobody
that'll
pays
fly
right now, right?
Nobody, of course. I mean, we're assuming there's some negotiation. Can we confirm that much? No. But so key features here, 6% on acquisition.
Yep.
Let's just talk high level what the building is. Is this a purpose built? Is it like, what are we working with here?
Yeah, so great location in the Niagara region, purpose built, mixed use, small portion of it is commercial. So it qualifies for CMHC financing.
You could still get CMHC.
Correct.
Okay. Not MLI.
Which is, to my understanding, what's the CMHC cutoff is what, 33%?
33, 30. This is over 80% residential, so it's well above that threshold.
Beautiful.
So it's like 600 square feet of commercial.
In that range, yeah.
Is it? Is there actually a commercial tenant right now?
Yep.
Okay. And obviously you don't want to give too much away, so give me an idea of what type of commercial tenant would want to be in a space like this. Like what fits the area?
It's a high quality area, like nice multi-million-dollar homes surround it.
So it's not going to be a shawarma shop, or would it be?
Unlikely.
Hey man, you can always use a shawarma shop.
Yeah, I think it's more fitted for some type of service, like a nice high-end salon or something of that nature.
So it could be something like that.
And the current lease in there right now, long-term lease, short-term lease, what's that look like?
I think they're in the process of actually getting someone new in there.
Okay.
But similar style tenant. Once again, like higher end service type tenant.
Right on. So we can assume on closing there would be a new lease. Right. Running at market rent. That's good to know. Yeah. Because that's always the big thing with mixed use in my mind, right? Is I love mixed use, like, and it scares a lot of people off because
which is why it's a better opportunity.
Yeah.
I mean, like right out of the gate here, 6% cap on acquisition. Not a lot of deals that come on the show is the seller willing to entertain that.
Right.
Yeah. So that automatically makes it potentially a higher cash flow play, which is what we said off camera. And I know I introed the show with this. You're factoring you're seeing a 7% cash on cash here.
Yeah. With a little bit of lift. Like it's not A lot of the units are at market.
So you're assuming that are there 2 that need to get re-rented? Is that right?
Yeah, there's 2 that are rented at below market rent.
Oh, okay. So we've got 2 here. If you look on the screen, you can see these 2 units are under market. So we're looking for that basically $2,000 extra lift on the.
Yeah.
So then we got commercial rented out at $2,200. Not bad for a commercial space.
Good area.
Niagara region. And then we got laundry income as well. It's got a breakdown of the property taxes. Property management factored at 7%. Mm-hmm. Do they have management currently helping them out there?
I believe he's self-managing, but since we're looking at this through the lens of CMHC, we'll underwrite it, including property management, and then it's up to the buyer whether.
But isn't that beyond what CMHC would even factor?
4.25, I think.
I thought
for CMHC.
4, or with a mixed use, they might say 5.
Yeah. So we're seeing 4.25.
Yeah.
Okay.
For CMHC underwriting, but I like that figure of 7% because realistically, if we're the buyer, it doesn't really matter what CMHC says. Like for a mixed use building, you're gonna be into that 6.5%, 7%, 8% range,
including leasing, or leasing on top.
The thing with these deals is we always talk about this. You got to separate it into 2 portions. One is what it's actually going to be for you as the buyer, and what's CMHC going to do with it. What debt are you going to get? Right?
CMHC's a nice way of comparing apples to apples, because if you have a valuation based on CMHC guidelines, then you know whoever you're speaking with, they all ran the numbers the same way, so you can almost. At least you know it's apples to apples. Not that you can trust the number, quote unquote, but it's apples to apples.
But you know the property management number is a good one, because if CMHC is 4.25, a person that's purchasing this probably isn't going to be doing a lot of the hands-on work. Presumably, this is more of a hey, set it and forget it, and you're probably not going to get full property management at 4.25, even in the Niagara region. So
that's hard to get.
Yeah, unless you're looking at like a 75-unit building, 100-unit building.
Yeah, you can get
then you can get down to that 4.25 number.
Yeah. But on a deal this size, no. So it just makes sense to use that figure. And then that's where in the conversations with clients, we're going to separate them, right? So what is CMHC going to be, and what is your actual likelihood of your cash flow?
Right. Yeah. Well, and so some of the things I want to point out here is we sort of got the number maxed here, because you got to get 1.3 DCR with the mixed use, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know if you want to pull that up on your sheet just as well, so that I can.
Yeah, like a lot of these things will go backwards on, right? So it's like, cool that's what you want for the purchase price. But for us, we're going to take this, go direct to CMHC. So we need to hit that 1.3 in this case.
Yeah, so there's the 1.3 down there. Is that assuming anything to get to that number, or that's just out of the gate if you get those 2 units re-rented? That's what we could do.
No, that's as is.
That's
sending it right now.
So sending it right on acquisition. So that's actually perfect for a buyer.
Yeah.
You know what this is, guys? This is boring real estate. Yeah. And I love it.
Well, it works.
Because you can just go in there and you can just buy it.
Yeah.
And guess what? You don't need to cash for keys, turnovers, this and that. It's like, hey, you get a little bit of lift, which I love, right? You want to see that. Yeah. Total turnkey makes it a bit more difficult. This is like, hey, there's a little bit of juice to squeeze, right?
I mean, how often are you seeing a deal come in that works for multiple thousands of cash flow turnkey?
Yeah.
Like
with some upside.
Yeah, with upside as well. That is not something we see a lot of. So, like, I mean, if you look at my screen right now, I just got my cursor over the line in question. So, 23,000 of cash flow a year projected. Yeah. So 1930. That's pretty crazy, actually.
Love it.
Yeah. So your cash into this, if you're buying it for 1.6, is what's that number? 3.375, 400 grand.
Yeah. So short-term capital needed.
It's 400, right?
What's the differentiation here between short-term and long-term capital? Isn't that the same?
It's the same when it's a direct to CMHC here.
Yeah, you're direct to CMHC. Okay.
So that includes your legals, your
we'll go through the list. Yeah, you got broker fee 1%, lender fee 1%, land transfer tax, which it shouldn't be that much if you're going direct to CMHC, should it? Still be lender fee of 1%?
No, we get this all the time. So we just have those as line items. We'd rather be over on these. So those are negotiable. A lot of times if you're going direct,
those are a little slush. So, I mean, there's an opportunity to potentially even save on some of that, but it's good to have. So you got your application fee in here, and then your down payment at 256. So this is effectively what loan to value. We got a mortgage amount of
your 84. Yeah.
85 is max, right?
Yeah. 85 is max.
Because you can't do MLI select with this, right? Or could you?
Well, you could. No, I don't think for affordability, I don't think so. And energy efficiency.
Yeah. I don't think you need to. Like, you can always go MLI, but I think it's that balance of is the juice worth the squeeze, said, right?
Yeah.
I like that saying on this podcast. Is the juice, it does, squeezing the juice here.
If you're maxing out under the old program and the old, like this is the way we're running all deals. Like, if you have to jam into, I mean, I know energy efficiency is changing, but under the old program, if the deal you looked at only made sense for full energy efficiency, might not be the right deal. Yeah. Right. Like some of these old school programs, you know, hitting these numbers, that's how you want to look at it.
For me personally, I was saying this to Jake on the last episode, I'd rather a deal that I could make work at a 40-year AM or a 30-year AM. Like, I don't want to have to go to 50 to make the numbers work, because then in 5 years, I barely paid anything off. What if the rates have changed? I'd much prefer the cushion.
And you're sitting there with your whole portfolio. You know, maybe you have 1,000 doors, great, but you have like $1 million of equity across 1,000 doors. It's like, okay, like
$8K a month.
Right? So
and it looks fairly conservative here with the 5% interest rate. I think we're doing better than that right now.
Bond
with the bond
yields
rate.
Are trending down.
So
3.84 today.
What's the catch here, guys? Like, why is this so much better than most of the stuff I'm seeing?
The catch is it hasn't hit the market, so we're going to end up selling it probably pretty soon. But it's this is what you're seeing. Sellers that are sophisticated and truly sellers, like they're actually pricing it to move. Stuff is transacting.
So that's what they've done here.
That's what they've done.
And this isn't like, I do want to say, like, this is a good deal. I think this is a good deal, but we're seeing this in the market right now, Andrew. Like, I think
getting more like this. We just haven't had that many on this show recently
we haven't done many deals recently.
Look that good. Yeah. I mean, from a number standpoint, and I mean relative to the other stuff that I see floating around in Ontario. Yeah. So cash flow's coming back, is what you're saying.
You got so again, you have a lot of these are off market. They're coming to the people that are transacting, and the people that are underwriting it, knowing that they actually truly want to get rid of it and sell it, they're pricing it properly. There's a lot of stuff out there that is not priced appropriately, and it's not going anywhere.
Yeah, that's fair. So something else to point out here is that, it is only 40-year. I know we were kind of alluding to that.
Yeah.
I think that's a huge selling feature. If the numbers work and cash flow at that, heck of a lot better than needing to go to like a longer AM, like 60 or a 50-year model.
Yeah.
And then other than that, like, I guess there wasn't really a scenario where you guys calculated not doing CMHC here, I guess. I mean, obviously being limited to a 20 or 25-year AM, that's not really
going to work. From what I understand
from
the vendor, I think they're allowing a sale direct to CMHC.
So they're good with it.
That's part of the negotiation.
What's the implication? What's the implication of that? I mean, they basically, the only negative to the seller is that they're going to be paying the insurance premium, adding it to the.
They just just the runway needed to get it to CMHC. Yeah. So,
but they're gonna ultimately. What do we know? What the current premium is? Is it like 8% or something of the mortgage amount added on top? I don't know if it's that much. I'm just picking a number out of a hat, but
I think
that's a great question.
I'm sure we could find a round number to throw at it, but I think it's a little more complicated than that.
No, on residential, it's like 3% and something. I think commercial might be like 5 or something, but it is added. So that is something that would factor in, not on day one, but just down the road is something to consider. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, I mean, again, cash on cash, you're what, 23,000. That's CMHC's numbers. So your cash flow probably will be higher in reality on your 300 and change invested.
You think it'll end up being higher? Oh, you're just saying
your
because
cash flow will be higher because
all you got to do is you have to turn over those units, but you're saying potentially some of their estimations.
You don't have to turn over units to hit this. This is
I'm saying, but to make it better, you could turn over units.
No, I'm just saying, like, if you look at the list of expenses there in the top right.
Yeah. Okay. We're looking at the expenses.
So your maintenance and labor, as an example, this is a fairly turnkey building. So you're 500 and change a month. Like the likelihood you're going to be spending that, at least in the short term, is probably negligible.
Yeah. You've got salaries factored in there too.
So grass cutting, snow removal. Again, how much of that's going to be captured in your property manager if you're, this one's 4.3. So I think in reality, your actual cash flow is going to probably be a little bit higher. But again, based on these numbers, you're 7 and change cash on cash.
Well, one thing to point out is that CMHC factors in salaries, right? Where you're not going to have a salary for this building.
Confuses people religiously.
Yeah, that's like
they're like, who's getting the salary? Right? Is it you? Or like, no, it's not us getting the salary.
That's $4,400 a year that you're not actually paying somebody a salary. That's ultimately going to be going to your property manager. So that's where the 4.25 isn't really 4.25. They're factoring it in with salaries.
And like I do like the CMHC numbers. They're if you actually look at how buildings operate, and then you look at the CMHC numbers, they're pretty close. Like and that's why I think what you said earlier, it's kind of that standard underwriting process, and I really like that. Although 4.25 is light, the salaries make up for that. That's the leasing, that's the landscaping, the garbage removal, the hallway cleaning. That's where salaries is going.
Yes.
right?
Yeah. Well
it'll
said.
factor into that stuff.
Yeah.
So we got a utilities number on here, Mark. What's being paid common on the building?
That's so that's just all lumped into one number, but it is spread between hydro, water, gas.
And that's just like the common areas. Do they have their own
there's
electric
common
meters?
hydro,
Not metered.
metered, but I don't think every tenant. I think the two longer term ones are all inclusive.
Utilities included.
So
Okay.
there's
But
an
it is
opportunity.
metered. Nice. Okay.
There's an opportunity for them to roll that into utilities separate. So that's another way that you could improve the cash flow.
What's the heating source on it? You know,
Boiler.
No, I'm fairly certain it's a boiler, but
Yeah.
don't know the
11
specifics.
got $11.50 a month, factored in here. So between the three utilities, that's it's pretty comprehensive. That should be able to cover any unit.
Yeah, and there should be opportunity to improve that as well. And you touched on this already. Like there's a bit of a cushion in the interest rate. So in actuality, I mean, if you play with that number, even if you put in like a 4.75, you can see what that does to your cash flow.
Yeah, I think that's one of the big things right out of the box. Let's just play with that 4.75. Like say hypothetically you can get that, which I know the bond yield's down right now. That should be possible. So if you could do that, now we're getting, where's our cash flow? Oh yeah, 21. So that jacks cash flow by a couple $100. Yeah, that's not bad. These interest rates come down a bit more. It'll be,
it's sensitive to that. You see as operating costs as a percent of rent, which would be I don't know, box. My eyes are terrible, but let's say L. Yeah, right. 1 and 2 down.
On an L. Okay. Yeah. There.
Right here.
Yeah. Oh, okay. We're going down. Percentage rent. Okay. Yeah. There you go.
That's a figure I love chatting about because you'll see that basically how much to run this building as a percent of rent. So 30 is like, you're doing okay. 25 is a very well-run building. When you get into the 35s, the 40s, there's a lot of room for improvement.
Yeah.
So this is kind of hovering in that range. So when you look at it and go, hey, we can cost share some of this back to the tenants.
So you're saying even a building,
number.
the age of this one, which I don't know how old it is, but I did see some pictures off camera. So that maybe like 50 years old?
Yeah, probably.
So it's like a 50-year-old building. You should be able to get it down to the 30% range.
Yeah, almost certainly. So newer windows, and when you start giving some of those expenses back to tenants,
give the expenses back to the tenants. That'll help. Okay, so that just kind of shows you area for potential improvement.
It's just just for your viewers, when you start looking at buildings, you see that number. It's a nice figure, right? So if you see it and it's 18%.
If it seems super low, now you should be concerned because
something's wrong.
Under
Usually there's something's missing. So we'll see that, and it's 18-20%. It's kind of an older building.
That's hard.
Something's
hard
wrong.
To target. Even brand new builds is hard
They're
to
not
target. 20%, 20. Like usually they're like 27, 26.
Yeah, I've seen like 23s and stuff where they're really, really nicely done and peak market rents. But it's an often overlooked indicator where you can just look at things pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So that drives and makes sense.
That's a quick tip, right? When you're going through realtor.ca, looking at listings, like and most of the time they'll give you the gross, maybe not the NOI.
Yes.
Or they give you some kind of funky number NOI. I always just take the gross, right? Because the gross is going to be represented as accurate.
Yeah.
Yes.
Expenses always get fudged. So you take the gross.
You just apply 30.
The gross, apply that 29-30% expense ratio. And then it's going to spit you out an NOI. Apply that NOI to the desired cap rate, and that's kind of where the building's going to land.
That's good, quick and dirty. That's good, quick and dirty. I mean, you're never going to finish there, but if you're just quickly evaluating deals, there's not really a better way.
50 deals a night.
Yeah,
like
if
10
you're doing
deals
50
a night,
deals a night, that's how you do it. Because you can do that in like 30
you
seconds.
hammer through it, right? And you find that sweet spot, right? You say, hey, the 50-year-old building is going to operate around that 30% mark efficiently. So maybe even if you want to leave a buffer, put it at 35.
Yeah.
Take that off the gross and let's go, right? It's
sort of the game is like building a filter. We see so many deals, you start kind of how do you cut these?
Well, you have to have your shortcuts. Like for me, I would look at like obviously 1% rule is an obvious one. Like when you're looking at buildings and seeing can I get 1% of my purchase price in a monthly rent figure. That's harder to do these days, but I think that's coming back actually in maybe the next 5 years. Depends on how long interest rates stay high. But anyways, shortcuts. That's a shortcut that I've used a ton of. And it just lets you evaluate so many deals. You just next. Okay, that's not going to work next. Okay, we might have one.
And it lets you sort of zoom out and you just look at kind of the pieces of the puzzle and you go, that something seems off here. So that it's indicative of probably a problem. If that's 18%, we need to investigate this. Something's off.
Yeah. Okay, can you guys walk through the process of buying this, point out any differences because it's mixed use versus a typical multifamily, just for our audience, because we don't talk about that much mixed use on the show. So what would that look like and how might it be a bit different from a buyer perspective?
Sure, I'll take it. Yeah, throw that one at me.
I'll go after. I'm excited.
No, yeah, I think Dave's pointing at me because I'm closing a mixed-use building right now in Brantford, right? So it's five commercial, 30 res, and so we're going through the process of closing, getting the paperwork. So really, look, the biggest thing here is for the commercial tenants, number one, leases, right? A rent roll is not enough for a commercial tenant. You need a lease because the leases are custom. Every commercial lease is custom.
Yeah. They're completely unique. There's no regulation. There's no standardization.
No, right? So it's completely a handshake or not a handshake, but it's an agreement between Dave and I. And I'm going to say, Dave, you're paying me $1,000 for this space. And this is what we're going to agree on, right? So never use a rent roll for a commercial lease or a commercial tenant, right?
Make sure you
get the rent roll up front. And that's not like a closing document. That's I need it before I bring the offer.
Yes.
Right. And that's a very common thing. I'm going to harp on this a little bit, but it's a common thing when you're dealing with other agents and they go, well, here's the rent roll. This is the number. We'll get you the leases once you're conditional.
Yes.
And it's like, well, no, because that's.
Yeah, you need that up front.
Like, that lease could be month to month.
Right.
And that tenant could be moving out tomorrow. And now we're 6 months, 12 months vacant.
Yes.
Because you're in an area of town that
in the red side of
flocking
things,
to.
it's like, we know where all the power goes, right?
Yeah.
So if you have the lease, it's good. You're just going to look at some of the particulars. But to Jake's point, what's in that document is that's the contractual obligation, and they vary by every single contract. They're completely different often.
Right.
So that's fun. So I like diving into those right? So that's number one, I would say, most important thing. After that, you want to look at what your CAM is or your TMI. If there's CAM or TMI, so CAM CAM is common area maintenance.
Okay.
So that's a charge back. That's a recoverable that the landlord charges the commercial tenant.
Okay.
So with commercial tenancies, again, for smaller 600 square foot, 1,000 square foot, most of the time it's a gross figure, right? Because the landlord that's got one retail in a building, he's not now trying to figure out what his CAM charges are.
It's going to be a more simple lease on a building like this.
Yeah, like this is probably a single net or a gross lease, right? Where it's like, hey, you're paying me $2,000 a month,
and that's that.
And that's that.
It's not like a triple net where they're paying a portion of the taxes and all that.
But here's the thing, right? Like being a savvy landlord for a building like this, although it is only one tenant, if you can charge back 10%
of your property tax,
15% of the common area, meaning the hallway, the garbage, the this, the that, and you can prove a figure to it, and that's how you bring your tenancy in, then it's important, right?
So what I'm trying to get at is like somebody who hasn't owned mixed use before, like some tips and tricks, things they could do to make more money from this in the long run, in the next 5 years, do better with it.
Yeah.
Or if they're looking at, even if it's not this deal, but if they're looking at a deal, so that's something they can do by structure that lease better, try and charge.
So recoverables.
It's kind of like plus utilities. You're not going to make any more or less on rent, whether you're plus utilities or not. Typically, you just need to make sure that you add in something for utilities.
Yeah, and the recoverables are essentially lowering your expense cost because you're not pocketing extra cash.
Right. Yeah, you're just recovering.
You're not going to upcharge.
Yes.
Because then you're going to get in crap. But so that's the other thing. Check out, look for your CAM and TMIs because some leases have them structured. And I've run into
TMI. Repeat that again.
Taxes, maintenance, and insurance.
Okay,
right.
So you're just going to get a piece of that back too. With
For this argument, we're going to say CAM and TMI is the same thing.
Yeah.
Right.
We'll call them recoverables.
Yep. And we've done deals where the landlord had a CAM or TMI number in the lease, but was not collecting on it.
Oh, really?
Found money.
And they missed it. And then we went in there and we're like,
so do you just send a bill back?
We're like, we just made
You're welcome.
another $1,000 a month. Okay, thank you. Right. Yeah. And that was a long-term lease. And it's like, well, I can't believe you missed this. Yeah. So little things like that. But lease agreement's the number one thing.
Yeah. So structure your lease well. Do people need to worry? I mean, I know you guys said this isn't a good location, but do people need to worry about finding that next tenant in a location like this? Like, what are some of the considerations, risks, and then also upside?
Yeah. Like for commercial, generally, we apply a higher vacancy and very area dependent, right? Like there's some areas where you look at their downtown core and you see like multiple vacant commercial storefronts, and then you have to look Detroit. Into like, like that's actually a serious consideration. Yes. Like how long will it take to find a quality tenant? This particular location, that it seems to be a lot of demand and not as much of an issue, but
so you don't really see the vacancies around nearby.
Yeah, it's a very desirable area, even for commercial.
Yeah.
So
and property management would pick this up. Like that wouldn't be an issue. You could get them to rent that stuff out, handle the lease. Like you're still gonna, like if it were me, whether I got property management or not, my lawyer's gonna handle the lease. Like gonna come up with all that.
Yeah, and I think a big factor just for people looking at mixed use is the HST comes into play. So if you're buying an all residential multifamily, there's no HST. Applicable HST. In a mixed use, it is.
Is it based on square footage?
Yeah, but it gets, so this is where it gets confusing, but we'll make it not. If you register and you have an HST number prior to close, which working with a good lawyer will help you do that, and good teams will make sure it's done.
We've scrambled to get them last minute. It works.
Well, we all have, but you got to have it. So then what happens is that HST flows through. So it's not going to be charged.
It's basically a nil effect.
Flow through. Yeah, that's
and this happened to us when we bought a resort and our camp, and we had to get an HST number for both, and it was a mad scramble because they were new corporations.
Yeah, I had the exact same thing.
Yeah, this has killed deals in the past for me. Where I was selling, and the buyer or the buyer's agent or the buyer's lawyer was not savvy enough to understand the flow through process. And we're literally sitting there being like, nobody has to pay this. Like, it's just going to, and we're good. And they just did not believe us. I had my accountant write them a letter and they're just like, no, like we're not doing it because we're paying HST. And it's like, okay.
And that's kind of the important point is if you are closing on a multifamily mixed use, you need to have that HST number because this beautiful flow through word we keep using, the buck stops if you don't have an HST number for this to flow into. So the door's closed. You got to gate that HST, and then it's going to flow through to the next next owner. And that just kind of happens in perpetuity as long as you keep having the same the same puck. So that's an important component.
That's a really great point.
Yeah, very valid point. I was hoping that got brought up. Okay, so that covers the main stuff I was thinking of in terms of implications to this. You're going to want to find a property manager that's not afraid of the mixed use, but you're going to, if there's a lot in the area, there's going to be somebody managing those buildings. So,
and if it's 650 square feet with a new tenant, that's presumably good.
You're not going to be an issue for a while.
Yeah, and I do want to say, like, don't be scared of commercial tenancies. They're actually very good.
You have way more power as an owner.
You have more rights as the owner. There's no
landlord and tenant board. They don't pay. You can
if they don't honor their contract, it's like get out of here.
And they're usually knock on wood. I don't have anything wood here, but they can be low maintenance.
They can be,
right.
They often
are, and I don't want to say they always are because sometimes they're not. But a lot of the buildings that I've sold, a lot of landlords, a lot of guys I know that own mixed use, it's like I never hear from my tenant. Because they just take care of everything. They take their own garbage out.
I don't hear them. They're great. They're fantastic. I love them. I hope they're listening. They're beautiful people, and I don't ever have problems. Knock on wood.
Guys, we need to get this. This needs to be available in audio podcast form too, because we've gone on. But
have we gone too long? Yeah,
but it's been really good. No, this is a really good discussion. I'm just saying, like, it'd be great if we had this as an audio format too, just for people driving in their car. But I like this. Anyways, okay, so thanks guys for doing this. It was great first time with all four of us, and I think we're doing something different now. If people want to get on your deals list, I don't know what you guys call it. They can opt in now through the link. So that basically just gets them onto the list if they want to start seeing your deal of the week,
deal review, deals of the week. Yeah.
So if you guys want more of these gold nuggets, more deals that are coming down the pipe that aren't even available yet, I think that's the place you probably want to be.
Yeah, these are going to be off-market deals. Deals of the week is actually really interesting because it's not always going to be off-market, on-market, whatever. It's a deal that our team has looked at and said, this works, right? And it could be the one that's been sitting on MLS for 450 days. And if we find an angle where we're like, hey, no, this works, you're going to get a copy of that, right? And we're going to help you execute on that.
And just a little plug. I mean, anyone that works with us, this type of underwriting are done on any deals. So if you're looking for a 15 unit, we're not just going to send you pictures of a 15 unit with a rent roll. It's going to be full underwritten.
Like people watching this sheet, this is the sheet you typically work with.
Two versions.
Well, I've seen the more elaborate version, but this is the simplified for client presentation.
And what we do is we walk you through what the deal would look like if you bought it, what would do with CMHC, how we would approach it, why we like it, why we don't for each deal.
Very cool. All right. Thanks, guys. And for everyone watching, please show the channel some love. Send us to somebody you think it could help. And of course, leave us a comment. Let us know what you want to know more about.
Hit that notification bell.
Yeah, hit that notification bell. Better yet, join the email list and you'll get notified that way.
That's way better.
You'll get notified that way. All right. Okay. Beautiful. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next week.